If your brain comes alive the second your head hits the pillow, this is for you. Because if you don't fix this, you'll keep losing nights, snapping at people you love, and dragging through your days half awake. Today I'll give you one simple rule, a 3-minute brain dump, and a calm breathing pattern you can actually use at 2 a.m. The part that will surprise you is how we slow down your mind without needing apps, pills, or perfect discipline. If that sounds like something you need, stay with me. It's 2:17 a.m. and the blue light from your phone is the only thing holding back the dark. You're lying on your side, one ear pressed into the pillow, scrolling through an email thread you already read 3 times today. Your brain is replaying a conversation from earlier, something your boss said on Zoom, something your partner didn't say in a text, the way the number in your banking app looked a little too small. You check the time again, do the math backward for how many hours of sleep you'll get if you fall asleep right now, and immediately feel more awake. Your body is tired, but your mind is pacing the room like it's on patrol. Here's the uncomfortable truth, your problem isn't just stress, and it isn't only insomnia. The real problem is that you've never been taught how to land your mind at night on purpose. So you do what everyone does. You carry unfinished work into the bedroom in your head. You rehearse arguments with people who are already asleep. You scroll just to distract yourself, and 45 minutes later you're down a rabbit hole of news, exes, and strangers' highlight reels. You tell yourself you'll catch up on sleep this weekend, but when the weekend comes, your body is still buzzing. The cost isn't just feeling groggy the next morning. It shows up when you snap at someone you care about, when you can't focus at work, when simple tasks feel heavier than they should. Over time, your self-respect takes a hit because you know sleep is basic, and yet you can't seem to get out of your own way. Today, we're going to change that with simple, repeatable moves you can actually remember at 2:17 a.m. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a 3-minute brain dump that gets the swarm out of your head and onto paper. You'll have a calm, realistic breathing rhythm you can do in bed without counting yourself into frustration. And you'll have a no-screen buffer you can protect, even if people are used to having 24/7 access to you. Educational content inspired by classical Stoic texts. Not medical, psychological, or legal advice. First, we'll look at why your mind goes into overdrive at night and why trying to think your way to sleep backfires. Next, we'll build a 3-minute brain dump that clears your mental runway without turning into a 30-minute journaling project. Then we'll layer in a breathing cadence you can run like a background app to calm your nervous system. After that, we'll create a simple, social-proof buffer between you and your screens so you're not fighting the entire internet before bed. Finally, we'll walk through a real Friday night story where you would normally spiral, and you'll see these tools working together to give you a quiet mind and a different kind of night. In a little while, we'll step into that Friday night on your couch where a single late message could ruin your sleep and your weekend, and you'll see how a tiny set of choices keeps you from exploding at someone you care about. Stay with me until the very end, and while you're here, hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. The first move is simple but not easy. Stop trying to solve your life in the dark. The claim is this: late at night, your job is to land the plane, not redesign the engine. When you treat midnight like a problem-solving meeting, your brain does exactly what you trained it to do. It keeps generating options, arguments, and worst-case scenarios. If you never change this rule, you'll keep losing hours of sleep to imaginary debates with people who aren't in the room, and you'll wake up with the same problems plus a new one: exhaustion. Here's why this matters. At night, your brain is already more emotionally tilted. You're tired, you're less rational, and your ability to zoom out is weaker. The same email that felt annoying at 3 p.m. feels catastrophic at 11:47 p.m. Your body thinks you're under threat, even if the only stimulus is a glowing rectangle in your hand. Epictetus would tell you that peace comes from focusing on what's in your control, and that's especially true at night. In those hours, what's in your control is not the entire shape of your future, it's how you relate to your thoughts right now. When you quietly decide, night is for landing, not solving, you shift from being tangled in your thoughts to observing them pass through. This is how a calmer, more focused version of you responds instead of reacting. You can give yourself one clear line: I don't have to solve this tonight, I just have to park it. You can say it out loud in a whisper or just in your mind. It sounds simple, but it draws a boundary between you and the mental noise. You're not denying that the problem exists. You're declaring that midnight is a terrible time to do strategy. Imagine this: it's a Tuesday night in Toronto. You have an early morning meeting, and your boss sent a slightly passive-aggressive Slack message around 9:30 p.m. about a report that needs tightening. You opened it, of course. Now you're in bed, replaying the wording, imagining what you really meant, scrolling through the message thread, and wondering if your job is at risk. The old way is to stare at the ceiling, draft 3 different reply messages in your head, and maybe even get up, open your laptop, and start tinkering with the report until 1:30 a.m. The next morning, you're frazzled, and the fixed report isn't actually better, it's just a little more frantic. The new way is different. You see the message, feel the spike of anxiety, and quietly repeat, "I don't have to solve this tonight, I just have to park it." You grab a nearby sticky note, write "review report for tone 11 a.m. block," and place it on your laptop. Then you close the lid. You're not pretending the problem is gone. You're acknowledging it and deliberately moving it to the next day, where your rested brain can handle it. Your tiny action today is to choose your night rule and write it down once. It can be the exact sentence, "Night is for landing, not solving," or your own variation like, "No life decisions after 10 p.m. Put it on your nightstand, on your phone lock screen, or on a post-it near your bed. That way, when the next late-night spiral tries to start, you already know what role you're playing. Hold on to that one line, because when we get to that Friday night story later, you'll see how this simple rule keeps you from sending a message you can't take back. The next move is the 3-minute brain dump, a fast, no-drama way to get the buzzing thoughts out of your head without turning the night into a writing retreat. The claim here is that most of your nighttime anxiety is unstructured mental clutter. If you keep it floating in your mind, it blends together into a fog that feels heavier than it is. If you never change this, you'll keep carrying a vague sense that everything is a mess even when there are only a few specific things that need action. Here's why this works. Your brain is wired to keep reminding you of unfinished tasks. Psychologists call it a tendency to fixate on incomplete loops. You don't have to know the terminology to feel it. You forget one bill and your mind reminds you of all bills. You miss one workout and the brain tells you a whole story about your discipline. When you write things down, you signal to your mind that the loop is acknowledged. You're not promising to do all of it tonight, you're promising that it won't disappear. Seneca wrote letters to a friend as a way of sorting his own mind. This is your shortened version of that practice. For 3 minutes, you become a secretary, not a judge. You can anchor this with one sentence: "For the next 3 minutes, I'm just taking dictation from my brain." You're not analyzing, you're not editing, you're not trying to sound wise. You're just copying whatever your mind throws at you onto a page. Picture yourself in a small apartment in Chicago. It's around 11 p.m. You've brushed your teeth, turned off most of the lights, and you're finally in bed. The room is quiet, but your thoughts aren't. You're thinking about your credit card, your brother's text about your mom's health, that weird moment in today's meeting, the fact that your car needs maintenance, and whether you're wasting your potential. The old move is to lie there and let those thoughts loop. You flip between apps, check your banking again, open your email just to see if anything new came in. 20 minutes disappear. The new move is this: you sit up, grab the notebook you keep on your nightstand, set a timer for 3 minutes, and say in your mind, "For the next 3 minutes, I'm just taking dictation from my brain." Then you write in messy, bullet-free sentences. Call Honda dealer. Mom's test results next Thursday. That comment from my manager bothered me. Need to check the card due date. Feeling behind. When the timer goes off, you draw a line under your last word and close the notebook. You don't reread it. You don't decide what's big enough to deserve action. You simply let your brain know, it's on paper. You can rest. Your tiny action as soon as you can is to put an actual pen and something to write on within reach of your bed. Not in the other room. Not in a bag across the floor. Within arm's reach. Tonight, before you go to sleep, set a 3-minute timer and try taking dictation from your brain once, even if it feels silly. You'll likely be surprised by how much quieter your mind feels once it knows the list is captured and can be handled tomorrow. Remember this 3-minute agreement with yourself, because in that Friday night moment later, this is one of the tools that stops the spiral before it even gathers speed. Now we add a breathing cadence, something so simple you can run it half asleep. The claim is that a steady, slightly extended exhale tells your body that it's allowed to ease down. If you leave your breathing to chance when you're anxious at night, it will automatically become shallow and choppy, and your body will read that as a signal that it's time to stay alert, not time to rest. Here's why this matters. Your nervous system listens more to your breath than to your thoughts. You can try to tell yourself, calm down, it's fine, but if your breathing is fast and high in your chest, your body isn't buying it. When you gently lengthen your exhale, you're pressing on the brakes of your own stress response. You're shifting out of the mode that's built for emergency and into the mode that's built for repair. You don't have to hit some perfect ratio. You just have to be intentional for a short window. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the present moment is bearable if you don't add extra drama to it. This is your physical version of that, just one breath, then another, without adding stories. You can phrase it as a simple line, in for 4, out for 6, ride the exhale. You don't have to count out loud. You can just gently think 1, 2, 3, 4 as you breathe in, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as you breathe out. The idea is not to starve yourself of air. It's to make the outbreath just a bit longer, like you're slowly letting air out of a balloon instead of popping it. Imagine a night in Seattle. Rain taps lightly against the window. You're under the covers, and your phone is finally on the nightstand. But your heart is still beating as if you just ran up a flight of stairs. You're thinking about a mistake you made on a project, and your mind keeps flashing through what could happen if it goes badly. The old pattern is to lie there and let the physical anxiety run the show, hoping that eventually your body will get tired of being tense. Maybe you flip to your back, then to your side, check the clock, and feel a little jolt of panic when you see that it's already past midnight. The new pattern is direct. You place one hand lightly on your chest, one on your stomach, and quietly say in your mind, in for 4, out for 6, ride the exhale. You breathe in gently through your nose, feeling your lower ribs expand just a little, then breathe out like you're slowly fogging up a window for 6 counts. You repeat this 5 or 6 times. By the 3rd or 4th round, your heart rate has inched down. By the 10th, your body feels heavier against the mattress. The thoughts might still be there, but they're no longer dragging your physiology around by the collar. Your tiny action is to practice this cadence once during the day when you're not stressed. Maybe you do it sitting in your car before going into the grocery store, or during a commercial break while you're watching TV. Do 5 rounds of in for 4, out for 6, ride the exhale. That way, when you're in bed and your anxiety spikes, your body already knows this rhythm. It's familiar, not another new thing to learn while you're half panicked. Keep this breathing pattern in your back pocket, because later, in the middle of that tense Friday night message, this is what will stop your reply from coming from a place of adrenaline. Now we need a boundary between your nervous system and your screens. The claim is straightforward: if your last 30 minutes before bed are a tug-of-war with your phone, you're handing your brain to the most stimulating content available and then asking it to be quiet on command. As long as that's your pattern, you'll keep seeing the inside of your eyelids lit up with notifications, headlines, and faces you don't even know. This works because your brain doesn't instantly forget what you just fed it. If the final thing you scroll before bed is a timeline full of arguments, disasters, and everyone else's achievements, your mind is going to keep processing those themes after the screen goes dark. You're giving your subconscious a highlight reel that screams, you're behind, you're unsafe, or both. Creating a no-screen buffer isn't about pretending the world doesn't exist. It's about choosing what your last mental meal of the day will be. A Stoic would tell you that you become what you repeatedly attend to. Your attention right before sleep is prime real estate. You can protect it or hand it to the algorithm. Here's a line you can use with yourself and with others: I'm off screen after time, I'll respond tomorrow. You fill in that time based on your life. Maybe it's 10 p.m., maybe it's 9:30 p.m. The exact number isn't sacred. The commitment is. Picture a night in Atlanta. You work in customer support for a tech company, and your team uses Slack and email around the clock. You also have a group chat with friends from college that stays lively late into the night. Usually, you're half watching a show, half scrolling 3 different apps until you finally feel your eyes burn. When someone sends a slightly loaded comment in the group chat about how some people never show up anymore, you jump in to defend yourself, then get pulled into a back and forth that leaves your chest tight. The old move is to keep typing, trying to settle it before bed so you don't wake up to drama. You tell yourself that if you just explain one more time, they'll understand. You end up going to sleep angry, staring at your phone until it drops onto your chest. The new move starts earlier. You decide that you're off screen at 10 p.m. and you actually set an alarm labeled "Night Buffer starts now." At 9:55 p.m., you send a quick message in the group chat, "Hey, I'm off screen after 10, if I don't reply tonight, I'll catch up tomorrow." You do the same with work if needed. "If anything non-urgent comes in after 10, I'll handle it first thing in the morning." When 10 p.m. hits, you plug your phone in across the room or in the kitchen. Someone sends a snarky comment at 10:07 p.m., but you don't see it. Your mind might wonder briefly, but your body isn't being pinged every 30 seconds, and eventually the urge to check softens. Your tiny action is to pick your no screen time for tonight and tell one living human about it before that time hits. It can be simple: "Just so you know, I'm off my phone after 10 tonight." You're not asking permission, you're just stating your plan. When the time comes, the goal isn't to create a perfect ritual. It's just not picking the phone back up. This buffer will be crucial when we walk into that Friday night later on. It's the difference between spending your night defending yourself in texts and spending it actually recovering from your week. Let's add a filter: what's truly in your control tonight and what isn't. The claim is that a big chunk of night anxiety comes from treating everything as urgent and personal, even things that are completely outside your reach at that moment. If you never sort your thoughts this way, you'll keep trying to mentally wrestle people, timelines, and outcomes that don't belong to you. This works because your mind loves to bundle. One stressful thought calls another, and soon your brain is replaying conversations from high school while also forecasting disasters 10 years into the future. Epictetus framed it simply: some things are up to you, some things aren't. At night, up to you shrinks in a good way. You can't fix someone else's opinion of you at that moment. You can't finish next month's project at 11:45 p.m. without consequences. You can, however, choose how you relate to those facts and what you'll do about them tomorrow. When you separate "in my control tomorrow" from "not in my control at all," your brain has fewer things to spin in the background. You can phrase the filter like this: is this mine to act on tomorrow, or not mine at all? That question alone can shorten a spiral. Imagine a Thursday night in Denver. You're lying in bed next to your partner, who has already slipped into a soft, steady breathing rhythm. You, on the other hand, are staring at the ceiling thinking about your student loans, your partner's comment about the dishes, that weird look your friend gave you over brunch, and climate change. Everything feels equally heavy. The old reaction is to let your mind bounce between these topics without ever landing. Maybe you sigh loudly a few times, wake your partner up, and start a low-key argument because you're irritated that they can sleep while you can't. The new response uses the filter. You mentally list 2 columns. On the left, mine to act on tomorrow. On the right, not mine to act on at all. Student loan questions go on the left with a small note: call servicer during lunch. The friend's brunch comment goes on the left with: text them this weekend to check in. Climate change goes on the right. Your partner's dish comment goes on the left with: have a 5-minute talk Saturday afternoon about chores. By the time you're done, you realize only a few items actually belong on tomorrow's micro list, and the rest are either too big or not in your control. Your body feels a small release. You're not pretending these things don't matter. You're acknowledging that tonight is not the battlefield. Your tiny action is to practice the question once out loud or in a whisper before bed: is this mine to act on tomorrow, or not mine at all? Pick one thought that's been looping and decide which side it falls on. If it lands on mine, then your 3-minute brain dump can capture the next step. If it lands on not mine, you let that thought drift through without grabbing it. Keep this filter close, because when we reach that Friday night text, this question will be part of what stops you from taking responsibility for someone else's storm. Next, we look at your identity at night, seeing yourself as the guardian of your attention instead of a passive receiver of whatever shows up. The claim is that if you keep thinking of nighttime as free time for your mind to go wherever it wants, you'll keep waking up feeling like you got run over by your own thoughts. When you start seeing yourself as the person who chooses the last few thoughts of the day, you reclaim a crucial space. This works because the story you tell yourself about who you are guides the tiny choices you make. If you secretly believe, I'm just bad at sleep, I'm a night overthinker, then every time your mind revs up, it feels inevitable. If, instead, you quietly adopt the identity of the person who lands my mind like a pilot, your actions start to align with that. Marcus talked about living according to your nature as a rational being, not just your impulses. Here, that means treating your last waking minutes as something you steward, not something that just happens. You can cement this with one sentence: I protect what my mind lands on at night. That's who you are training yourself to become. Imagine a small house outside of Boston. The kids are finally asleep. The dishwasher is humming in the background. You've just sat down on the couch, and for the first time all day, it's quiet. Your usual habit is to grab your phone and scroll until your eyes burn, then drag yourself to bed and crash. You tell friends, half joking, I'm terrible at sleep, my mind just runs. The old pattern is to accept that identity and live into it. The new pattern starts with a small moment. You stand up to head to bed and pause at the doorway to the bedroom. You put your hand lightly on the doorframe and think, I protect what my mind lands on at night. Instead of picking up your phone just to check, you pick up a short, simple book, or you sit for 2 minutes in the dark, breathing. You decide that the last thing your mind sees tonight will be something you chose, not something an algorithm threw at you. Maybe it's a simple thought of gratitude, a mental replay of one good moment from the day, or just the feeling of your body sinking into the mattress. Your tiny action is to choose one last thought practice for tonight. It could be as simple as, before I close my eyes, I'll name one thing I'm thankful for, or I'll replay one small win from today. You don't have to force a feeling. You're just choosing a direction for your attention instead of letting it drift to the most negative thing nearby. This identity shift will show up clearly in that Friday night story. You'll see the difference between being dragged by your thoughts and quietly steering them. Now, let's deal with one of the most frustrating experiences, the 3 a.m. wake-up. The claim is that what you do in the first 60 seconds after waking in the middle of the night often matters more than the fact that you woke up. If your first move is to panic, grab your phone, or start reviewing your entire life, you teach your brain that waking up equals time to think hard. If, instead, you have a small script and a pattern ready, you can wake up in Ireland without turning the night into a thinking session. This works because your half-asleep brain is suggestible. Whatever you feed it right after waking tends to stick. If your first thought is, oh no, not again, I'm going to be wrecked tomorrow, your body responds with stress, your breathing changes, and your chances of falling back asleep drop. If your first thought is, this is annoying but not an emergency, paired with a familiar set of moves, your body gets a different message. You can use a simple line, I'm safe, this can wait, back to the breath. You're reminding yourself that most of what your mind is about to serve you is not urgent, and that you already have a tool to return to, your breathing cadence. Imagine a condo in Vancouver. You roll over and squint at the clock on your nightstand. It reads 3:11 a.m. Your brain instantly wants to start calculating how many hours of sleep you'll get if you can fall asleep right now. It also wants to revisit the awkward joke you made at dinner and the upcoming rent increase. The old reaction would be to groan, reach for your phone, and just check one app, which turns into 15 minutes of bright light and new input. Then you put the phone down and, not surprisingly, feel even more awake. The new response is different. You feel the irritation rise and quietly think, I'm safe, and this can wait, back to the breath. You keep your eyes as closed as possible. You don't look at your phone. You roll to a comfortable position, place your hand on your chest, and start in for 4, out for 6, ride the exhale. You don't try to force sleep. You just run the breathing pattern. Thoughts will still pop up. Every time they do, you repeat, this can wait, and return to your exhale. Maybe it takes 10 minutes, maybe 20, but you're not adding a stress storm on top of being awake. Your tiny action is to decide now what your 3 a.m. script will be and where your phone will be. If it usually sleeps inches from your face, experiment with plugging it in farther away so your first move isn't to grab it. Practice saying once, while you're fully awake, if I wake up tonight, I'll tell myself, I'm safe, this can wait, back to the breath. Later, when we talk through that Friday night, you'll see that this middle-of-the-night pattern ties everything together, giving you a way back to calm even if you do wake up. We've built the pieces: a rule about not solving your life in the dark, a 3-minute brain dump, a breathing cadence, a no-screen buffer, a control filter, an identity shift, and a 3 a.m. script. Now we'll weave a few of them into a single evening story so you can feel what this looks like under pressure. It's a rainy Friday night in Minneapolis. You've had a long week. Work has been messy, a project changed direction twice, and you feel like you've been running in circles. Money is tight. You ordered takeout instead of cooking because you just didn't have the energy. You're on the couch, wearing the same hoodie you threw on this morning, Netflix humming in the background. Your phone is on the coffee table within easy reach, screen lighting up every so often with a new notification. It's 9:45 p.m. You remember, faintly, that you decided to be off screens after 10:15 p.m. tonight, not 10 o'clock, because you wanted to watch one more episode and then land. You're half paying attention to the show, half scrolling through Instagram. Suddenly, a text comes in from your ex about your shared custody schedule for your son. The tone is sharper than usual. "We need to talk about you being late again. This can't keep happening." Another message lands 30 seconds later: "If you can't take this seriously, we'll have to revisit the agreement." You feel it immediately: a spike in your chest, heat rising in your face, a tightness in your throat. Your mind starts building a case. You remember all the times you were on time, the times they were late, the comments they made in front of your kid that you hated. The old you would grab the phone, open the thread, and start typing a long, emotionally loaded message back, point by point, with years of resentment packed inside. By midnight, you'd be drained, your ex would be defensive, and sleep would be a distant memory. This time, something different happens. The first tool that shows up is your night rule. Night is for landing, not solving. You notice your thumb hovering over the message notification and you freeze, just for a second. You hear the sentence in your own voice: "I don't have to solve this tonight, I just have to park it." You lock your phone and set it face down. Your body is still buzzing, so you reach for the notebook you left on the side table at the beginning of the week. You set a 3-minute timer and tell yourself, "For the next 3 minutes, I'm just taking dictation from my brain." You scribble in uneven lines: "Late for pickup twice. Feel like I'm failing as a parent. Angry at how they phrased that text. Need to relook at my work schedule. Maybe ask my boss about shifting Fridays. Worry about what the lawyer might say." The timer goes off. You draw a line, close the notebook, and deliberately do not reopen the messages. You glance at the clock: 10:12 p.m. Your no screen time is 3 minutes away. You pick up the phone once more, not to argue, but to send a single line: "I see your messages, I'm off my phone for the night. I'll reply tomorrow after I've thought this through." It's honest. It doesn't escalate. It buys you space. You plug your phone in on the dresser across the room and walk back to the couch. Your heart is still beating fast, though, and your mind wants to keep rehearsing all the things you might say. You recognize this as that control filter moment. Is this mine to act on tomorrow, or not mine at all, you ask yourself. Your ex's tone, their threats about revisiting the agreement that goes in the "not mine tonight" column. Showing up on time, checking your work schedule, considering what support you need that goes in the "mine tomorrow" column. You exhale slowly. You turn off the TV, dim the lights, and head to bed. At the doorway, you pause and put your hand on the frame. "I protect what my mind lands on at night," you think. In bed, you lie down, pull the covers up, and feel your body buzzing again. For a moment, the old reaction surges, a desire to get up, grab the phone, and reread the messages just to feel justified. Instead, you put your hand on your chest and whisper, "In for 4, out for 6, ride the exhale." You do it once. Twice. 10 times. The thoughts about lawyers and schedules still pop up, but each time you say quietly, "This can wait," and return to your breath. At some point, you drift off. Later, you wake briefly in the dark. The room is quiet. You don't know what time it is, because your phone isn't within reach. There's a moment, just a second, where the old panic tries to grip you. What if they texted again? What if they're even angrier? You catch it. "I'm safe, this can wait," back to the breath. You don't check the clock. You roll to a comfortable position and feel your lungs fill and empty. In for 4, out for 6. When your alarm finally goes off in the morning, you feel something you haven't felt after a night like that in a long time, not perfect, but intact. You didn't say anything you regret. You didn't stay up until 2 a.m. fighting a battle in texts. You poured your thoughts onto paper, protected your attention, and let your body do what it was built to do, repair. Over breakfast, coffee in hand, you open the notebook, glance at what you wrote, and jot a small next step, email boss about Fridays by noon. Then you open the text thread and craft a response that's firm, calm, and clear. You're still dealing with real problems. But they're meeting a rested, intentional version of you instead of the exhausted, sharp-edged one that used to show up every time. What you've been practicing here isn't magic and it isn't a performance. It's learning to respond to your nights instead of reacting to them. The heart of this lesson is simple: your mind will offer you chaos, especially after dark, but you are not required to follow every thought. There's a difference between a mind that runs you and a mind you know how to land. We started by stepping into that late night moment where you're staring at your phone, replaying the day, and quietly told the truth: trying to solve your whole life in the dark is a losing game. Then we gave you a rule: night is for landing, not solving, and a line you can say to yourself: you don't have to fix everything tonight, you just have to park it. After that, we built a 3-minute brain dump that lets your mind unload its unfinished loops without turning your evening into a huge writing project, and we saw how simply taking dictation from your brain can dial down the noise. Next, we layered in a breathing cadence: in for 4, out for 6, ride the exhale, so your body gets a clear signal that it's allowed to step out of emergency mode. After that, we created a no-screen buffer and a clean sentence you can send to others so your last 30 minutes aren't packed with strangers' opinions and arguments. We also added a control filter question, sorting what's truly yours to act on tomorrow from what isn't yours at all, which shrinks the battlefield. Then we shifted identity, seeing you as the guardian of what your mind lands on at night instead of a victim of your thoughts. Finally, we walked through that Friday night in Minneapolis, where an ugly text, a notebook, a breathing pattern, and a small decision not to argue changed your whole night and your next day. Today, your first do today step is to set up your environment. Put a pen and something to write on within reach of your bed and choose your night rule. Write it down where your sleepy brain will see it. Your second do today step is to pick and practice your breathing cadence once while you're fully awake. Take 5 cycles of in for 4, out for 6, ride the exhale sitting in a chair or in your parked car, so that later your body recognizes it. Your third do today step is to choose your no screen time for tonight and tell at least one person in your life, then follow through once by plugging your phone in somewhere that requires you to physically get out of bed to reach it. If this resonates, the natural next move is to learn how to handle your mornings with the same intentionality: how you pick up your phone, what your first thoughts are, and how you set the tone before work or family or news can hijack you. So next, you'll want to watch the lesson on Stoic mornings and digital boundaries, where we go deeper into starting the day without getting dragged into everyone else's urgency. You've just walked through a full set of tools to quiet your mind faster at night, from brain dumps to breathing to boundaries. If you found even one thing useful here, don't let it stay as a nice idea. Try it tonight. If you feel messages like this need to reach more people, hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.